My name is Yoon. I went to Sydney Grammar School and my body of work is called Bloodline. Its medium is oil on canvas. The body of work is 3 parts and each part is supposed to represent one of Sigmund Freud's superego, id, and ego, which all represent different parts of the human consciousness. And what would happen in each work is that it takes a singular part of Sigmund Freud's concept and psychological theory in the perspective of a young king. And in a king's perspective, it's like the most extreme part of leadership where you're the figurehead of a whole country. I wanted to have the larger painting be the moral consciousness, which is the part we mostly don't see in the kings, because it's the most hidden part, because it's like the part where the king's most vulnerable. Like, he's thinking about the weight of the crown. There's 2 other paintings, and the one that is supposed to show the id is the one where the king is facing away, and the last painting being of pose where he's looking into the audience. He's turned slightly to the side and he's looking very stoic. He's looking very calm, collected, and he's got a hat on which covers a bit of his face to show a bit of separation from, in the king's case, the commoners and himself. And that hat is actually culturally in Korea because the whole theme of this is Korean identity. And in Korea, that hat is supposed to be on Judgment Day, where he decides a person gets executed for his crimes. And it's a way that separates him from the viewers and separates his power from other people. I wanted to show a Korean culture in my paintings in a Western kind of essence. As a Korean, I wanted to bring myself into it because it's more connected. If I use another person, then I can't really connect to them and they can't really connect to my culture. And I'm also in a stage where I'm growing up, wanting to be a leader, wanting to be something bigger, and putting myself in that perspective allows me to kind of experience and learn about the history and the future, the present, and everything about that. So at grammar, we learn from year 7, if you picked art, we learn the history of art. So we go from back like Mayans, Aztecs, into classical periods, but we learn mostly Western instead of Eastern. Like, I began to develop my own painting style, and who I really liked was Caravaggio and his ability to use shadow, like tenebrism. Like, his techniques were so like fascinating to me. And in doing a self-portrait as well, I could control my facial features. I didn't have to tell someone else I wanted this facial feature, I wanted this emotion portrayed. I could just embody that myself. It was a lot easier to control in that sense. The starting process of my emotions and how I wanted to see myself was through myself, as in I went home. It was during COVID period, start of year 12, where we didn't have much face-to-face. It was more, they couldn't come near us, I couldn't get near them, so I had to do a lot of them myself. And I just take selfies and then practice, do a study, practice painting, and then until it got to a point where we're allowed to meet with our teachers and interact with them. And I did a bunch of studies where I was like, I really hated the studies. I really hated how it ended up, because when I looked at it, I didn't feel anything from it. I would be painting and I'd just be bored. I'd be listening to music. I'd try to do something else. The reason why the scale of one of them is so big is that I think the grander the painting, the more emotion you can explore. I can show more emotion. I put a bit of redness in the eyes to show almost him tearing up. My teachers were so angry at me because it was at a point where it was the exhibition day and I was still working on an oil painting that takes 2 weeks to dry. And I was working on it while it was hung up in the gallery of our school, and I still had my paintbrush out. It was still wet paint. So by the time it was that night where all the parents came, when the lights were shining directly onto my painting, you could still see wet parts, dry parts, wet parts, dry parts, and they looked odd. And my teachers were like, you should have started or like finished. But I couldn't do anything about it because the concept was so important to me.